TitleMatchNetwork.com.
What are your memories of your first match against Joe Thunderfoot?
You got it. Joe, was it Thunderfoot or Thunderstorm?
It may have been Thunderstorm.
Yeah,
Okay,
I think it was Joe Thunderstorm. It was actually, if I remember right, January 13th, 1990, I think, was that actual first match. Actually, it was in the Armory in Philadelphia, if I remember right. That's exactly where we wrestled. It was in the Armory in Philadelphia. Armory was jam-packed. Didn't have no room in that Armory. It was jam-packed.
Right.
You know, and here I am on my first professional match. I went out to the name of Chris Quasar, you know, and that's Larry. He just threw some kind of name on me for the first professional match because that's his whole goal was to get you to do your first match and then you're official. So, but it was great. I went out there. He was a big guy, real big guy, you know, not big as far as muscular, just a big, big guy. But it was great because I went out in front of a sold out Armory, jam packed, and won my first professional match.
Wow! So the first match you?
Yes, first match I won. Yes,
that's pretty cool. What was the hardest thing about training
for wrestling?
Yeah.
Well, I would tell you this, which most people need to know. Wrestling, again, yes, it's sports entertainment. Okay, but people don't understand everything that we do in that squared circle. It's serious. And when I first started training with wrestling, the first night I was hitting the ropes. I came back later on, about 4 or 5 hours after that. My whole ribs were like black and blue. I mean, it hurt to even breathe. I had to go that first night and put ice on my ribs, put an ice bandage around, and I had to lay on my opposite side. I couldn't even breathe. My ribs hurt so bad. My head was just shaking from hitting the mat, you know, because people think it's like a big cut. It's not. So I had a major headache, but, you know, again, just like anything, it's like a boxer, it's like a football player. You program your body, you train your body to be able to go out there and get used to more to slamming, getting used to more slamming, coming off the top rope, getting hit, you know, hitting the ropes, you toughen up your muscles. So after time, you get yourself in the kind of shape that you need to be in so you can perform in the ring.
Gotcha.
Entertainment.
Were you a fan of pro wrestling growing up?
As far as being a little kid, no. But what actually started getting me into wrestling is I went to Blockbuster Video down in Florida. There was a kid there, big fan of wrestling. And every time I'd see him there, he'd go, "You need to be a professional wrestler. You need to be a professional wrestler. You need to be a professional wrestler." So before I knew it, I'm watching all these videos, WWF. And then I would turn the video on. I seen all these great stars coming out. Hulk Hogan, Randy Macho Man Savage, Legion of Doom, you know, all these great stars. Rick the Model Martel, Barbarian, Shawn Michaels, The Rockers. I was going, wow. Then I started realizing, look at these guys. They got T-shirts. They got posters. Then I started looking at the arenas and seeing 10 and 15,000 seat arenas sold out all the time. And I started to go, wow. And being an athlete, I started looking and going, wow, look at these guys. A lot of these guys are football players. A lot of these guys are this or that. They're athletes because what we do, you have to be an athlete. You know, and I started looking, my God, look at this business. So my interest even grew more and more and more from that point.
How did you actually get into the business?
Through this
fan?
Yeah, through this fan that was in Blockbuster Video. Very, very simple. He kept telling me, listen, you need to be in wrestling. I know someone big in the business. I just kept listening to him. Again, I was still working for Bally's.
Right.
So I wasn't ready to just give up $100,000 a year for nothing. You know? So he kept telling me, I know someone. So finally one evening, after a long period of time, I says, okay, who are you going to introduce me to? He said, I'm going to introduce you to a legend. I says, who? He says, Nature Boy Buddy Rogers. You know, so I says, okay, great. So I lived in Florida. He lived in Florida. Matter of fact, he was down on the intercoastal waterways on east side of, I lived out west. He was down east. And I went to his personal house, sat down with him, and we just struck it off. And then from there, you might want to say that Nature Boy just, I don't know if you want to say closed me, but he put this big question mark out there for me. And I've always been the type of person that I don't see walls in front of myself, which every person should be this way. You can't look at yourself being defeated. You got to look at the things that are possible, the things that you can do. So he left this big open thing in front of me like, kid, you could be a big star in wrestling. And he said so many things. And when I left that night, he had my wheels spinning.
Right.
And I was thinking more and more about wrestling. And he knew, of course, George Scott at that time, personal friends. Mm-hmm. He knew, of course, Vince at that time. So over time, he kept talking to me. As a matter of fact, I hadn't bit the hook and swallowed yet.
Right.
Finally, here I'm sitting in my office at Bally's, and I can't believe who walks up the stairs to come see me. It's Nature Boy Buddy Rogers.
Right.
He comes and visits me at Bally's, sits down in my office. He goes, kid, you can be a great superstar in the world of professional wrestling. He says, listen, you go train. I'll tell you where to go train. You'll come back. Got a place for you to get started. And he says, you'll learn there. And then after that, you'll go to Vince. And then it was that day that I just said, hey, I got to make the decision. Right. So I made the decision. And at that time, Bally's was run by a lot of Italians. Nothing against Italians. Right. But I'll never forget it. I love Italian people. I love all races. I'll never forget it because I was sitting in my office and I told them I was going to give a notice. These are the kind of things that you have to do, though. Yeah. Gave a notice. I didn't know anything about professional wrestling. But I gave my notice, and all of a sudden all these Italian guys a few days later showed up in my office, the big executives, trying to make an offer to me that I couldn't refuse. Staying or, giving me a $30,000 a year raise, a bonus. But I says, guys, you didn't get to where you're at by not believing in yourself, by not taking chances, by not stepping out onto the water. So that's how it all began. Right.
What were your initial impressions of Buddy Rogers? What did you think of him?
Oh, gosh. Flamboyant. You could just tell he had acquired success, beautiful house on the water, intercoastal waterway, had his belts enshrined in nice glass cases, dressed up nice and neat, and spoke so professionally. And his wife was just a sweetheart, and you could just tell a man that had acquired success in the business. But more just that acquired success, but also had wisdom and was also a gentleman, enjoyable to be around. He was great. He was fantastic.
How did things turn out with you and him? Did you leave on good terms
when Nature Boy Buddy Rogers? Oh, yeah. It was fantastic. We basically all he did is, he gave me the big push to seek and to go after. Right. And he sent me up to Monster Factory, Paulsboro, New Jersey. Okay. Went there, Larry Sharp's school. And then after I went from the school from there, then came back down to Florida, got with Nature Boy. We actually got in a car. We lived on the East Coast, drove all the way over to the West Coast. Mm-hmm. Funny because that's now where I live, on the West Coast on Gulf waters. And we went and seen George Scott at his personal house. Right. And as soon as I walked in, George was just such a nice guy. His wife was so nice, got a beautiful house, condo on the beach, owned a few of them in Indian Rocks Beach. Beautiful. Right. So another guy that had been very, very successful. And as soon as he knew that I was really native Indian, he goes, I love it. So I started with George Scott during that time. Most people, maybe they don't know, but he was starting his own promotion, South Atlantic Professional Wrestling, out of the Carolinas, North Carolina, South Carolina, Virginia area. And it was going fantastic. Had Ricky the Dragon, Steamboat, but a few things happened and it slowly withered away. Right.
Getting back, what were your initial impressions of Larry Sharp?
Initial impressions. Larry, you could see that he was a wheeler and dealer. There's no doubt about that. He likes to talk fast and, he's up from this area, but, Larry was great. What made it so good for me is Nature Boy Buddy Rogers that opened the door. Right. Nature Boy Buddy Rogers had called him and said, hey, I'm sending this kid. I want you to take care of him. So when I came in, it was not like just a stranger coming off the street. Larry was already expecting me. Larry already put some special attention, and I even requested that I could do extra workouts on weekends. So he was really, really nice.
Who did you train with at the school at the time? Was there any?
Probably a name that you'll know. He's on the Independence all the time. Dennis Knight.
Okay, yeah.
Yeah, he was on. He was there all the time. God, who else? Nobody else that you would know. There's nobody else but that school is famous for Virgil came out of that school. Right. Bam Bam Bigelow came out of school. Of course, Larry Sharp managed him. God, who else came out of that school? I'm not sure if King Kong
I
Bundy
think
went
he
there.
had something to do with it.
I think King Kong Bundy went there too. But the biggest thing was Bam Bam and Virgil at the time when I went in.
Yeah.
TitleMatchNetwork.com